Recording in progress.
Chapter 23 The Power of Water. But let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never failing stream. That's Amos chapter 5, verse 24. I spend a lot of time just standing around in rivers. Actually, I'm fly fishing. But there's a lot more time spent standing around in the water waiting that there is catching fish. So I've learned how to get comfortable staying still in a river for extended periods of time. This is sometimes easier said than done. On my first extended fishing trip, I went back to my cabin after a long morning standing in the icy cold waters of northern New Hampshire. I'd thrown cast after cast upstream, letting the fly work in a way downstream. I'd been standing on uneven rocks with the swift current pushing against one side and compensating by pushing back into the water with my weight. I laid down for a nap and drifted off to sleep, only to be awakened by a pain in my upper thigh that was so intense I shot upright. It felt like a Charlie horse, except about 5 times worse. No matter what I did, stretching, massage, deep breaths, it wouldn't stop. It took a good 10 minutes before the muscles finally calmed down. That day I learned the power that water holds. No matter how firmly I think I'm planted in the river's bed, the water just keeps raging. If I hold on tight, it might not carry me off, but it won't stop just for me and my comfort. The prophet Amos calls for justice and righteousness that roar like a mighty river, cutting a path through the lowest valleys of the world. This is the kind of mighty current that carves its way through solid granite and washes away any obstructions. I've found that when I try to resist the currents of justice, God's call to join in the waters of righteousness, God gives me a wake up call every bit as urgent as those sharp pains after fishing. It might seem easier to stay standing where I've always stood, or more convenient not to make the journey downstream, but eventually God is going to get my attention. That's not to say that God punishes us for not being courageous. That's just to say that when God has set something in motion for good, God's not going to let us stand around and miss the boat. God's going to give us just enough of a nudge to get us moving. Prayer. God, I am ready to dive in. May I be one more wave in this tide of justice. Amen. Chapter 24. Overwhelmed. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. And that's Isaiah chapter 43, 1 through 2. I've never been all that steady on my feet. That was my greatest challenge when I took up fly fishing. I would wade out a few steps from the shore, slip on a rock, and wind up neck deep in the river. Most of the time, it was just a matter of picking myself up with nothing hurt but my pride. One afternoon, though, I was fishing near a dam that had just released some water. I probed the river with my wading staff and stepped forward into what I thought was solid ground. My foot must have slipped, though, because in an instant I felt myself upended and caught up in a strong current. I reached out my arms to try to grab a rock or a tree limb, but the water was too strong. My waders filled with water. I panicked and remembered thinking to myself, this is how people drown. Like many people who have wrestled with their gender identity, I had times early on when I felt like I was drowning. It all felt too big, and I felt like I was trying to stay afloat in dangerous water. Sometimes I wondered whether I would survive. Things changed for me when I started to believe that God was with me in the waters, keeping me safe and swimming along with me. When I finally came to really accept who I was as a non-binary person whose pronouns were they, their, them, I truly felt that God had brought me through it all. God had called me by name, and I was God's. In that split second on the river, where I wondered if I would make it, my mind somehow went back to a drown-proofing class we all had to take in college. Don't panic, don't get overwhelmed, get to shallow or water. I flipped over onto my back and aimed for the shore. About 10 feet later, the current pushed me into shallow water. I got my feet back under me. I was safe and I was alive. God does not abandon us in the deep waters. Instead, God stays close and tells us, don't be afraid. God leads us away from the rocks and into the shallow places. Then, when we're ready, God blesses who we are and sends us back to swim, stronger and more confidently than ever before. Prayer. When I lose my footing and end up too deep, stay close to me, God. Turn my panic to peace and call me by my name. Amen. Chapter 32. An open door. Look, I have set before you an open door, which no one is able to shut. Revelations chapter 3, verse 8. I am the sort who was never good at picking up when someone was flirting with me. My wife had seen me date other women beforehand and always rolled her eyes at me and told me I didn't understand how much they liked me. I shrugged it off and told her she was wrong. Looking back now, I wonder if I knew that I was waiting for her. My first date with my wife, though I am so dense that I didn't realize it was a date at the time, was at her church. She wanted me to check out a midweek worship service she loved. So we met downtown under the front door of the building that had the verse carved above them. Behold, I have set before thee an open door. somehow I finally realized she was interested in me, and we started to date. A year later, we walked through those same doors and under those same words into an empty sanctuary. Kneeling in the aisle, I asked her to walk through the next set of open doors with me and be my wife. A year after that, we walked back under those words and up to the front of the church, where we vowed to love one another our whole lives long. Some folks pick up on invitations into the lives of others fairly easily. For some of us, though, the big opportunities in our lives should come with a big carved sign over them saying, "Look, it's an open door." Those of us in the LGBTQ community too often rule ourselves out. We don't think that anyone is going to want what we have. We're too queer, too trans, too different. What we don't realize is that there is someone out there who is looking for us. Someone who is going to see us for exactly who we are and say, "You are what I've been waiting for. Come on in." We don't have to settle for someone who could possibly love us. We get to wait until the right door is open and we are being enthusiastically invited in. I think God sees us like that too. I think God sees us in all our queer and trans glory and thinks, I've been waiting for you. I think God opens wide the doors to God's heart and tells us, "Get in here. I've been waiting for you. What do you need? A sign carved in stone?" If you're like me, yeah, probably so. The good news is that it's there. God carved it right onto you when God created you in God's image. And you are good. The open door is within yourself, and God is waiting to welcome you home. Prayer. God, before I can even knock, throw open the door and welcome me in. Amen.